Good afternoon, everyone. What is going on? What is up? What is up? What is up? Happy Wednesday. How's everybody feeling today? How's everybody's week going? Shout out to the folks in the chat. Make sure you all hit the like button, hit that subscribe, share this channel out with everyone you know. So we got another player interview. This time it's with former Major League Baseball player, pitcher Jake McGee, who will be on the show here momentarily. We're just waiting for him to come up. Once he's backstage, I'll bring him up here as soon as he pops in. And let me say what up to the chat. We got John the Beagle Dad, Nathan. What's up, Nathan? Thank you again. You and your team are the best. Katie, Custodio, what's going on? So actually, while I was talking, looks like I got our special guest in the back. If you're ready to go, man, just give me a thumbs up. I'll let you come up. Awesome. Gave me the thumbs up. Let me bring up Jake McGee here. So how we doing, man? How's your day going? What's going on?
Going good. How are you doing?
Good, man. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come up and just chat with us. How are you? How's life, man? How's life after baseball? How's the retirement going?
I've been enjoying being retired for the first couple of years, and then been coaching my daughter's softball a lot, and then just started my own pitching lesson business probably like 3-4 months ago, and partnered with Northern Nevada Baseball Club here in town. Have been around for a while.
Okay.
He's a former professional player too, Chris Aguila, so it's kind of like easy transition to go into that. So.
Okay, so you're living in Nevada now, which was where you were raised, basically, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Cool, I grew up in Sparks, and then we moved back to Reno in 2021. And then luckily the Giants reached out, and I was a free agent in 21, and, it's only 4 hours from here. So it made it easy for me and my family.
No doubt. Yeah, I know. And, we'll talk about that because you played for a lot of different teams during your career. So, we'll get into all that. As far as your career, your choice and decision to play baseball, did you play any other sports in high school, or was it just strictly baseball?
It was just strictly baseball. One year I asked my parents to play football, and it was overlapping the baseball season. So they're like, you choose one sport or the other, and I stuck with baseball and never really did any other sports than that,
Yeah. So was pitching primarily what you did, or were there other positions that you tried playing? Because I know sometimes players will test out other positions. Eventually they end up in a certain position, whether it's pitching, shortstop, outfield. I mean, did you try different positions or no?
Well, I didn't even really start pitching until I was like 12 years old, and then started to get into it more. And then high school, I was still focusing on hitting a lot, and I was actually a really good hitter in high school. And some of the teams said they're looking at me as a hitter or pitcher. But then my junior to senior year, I started to throw a lot harder and focus just on pitching. And, I played first base and outfield here and there.
Okay. But and then you just ended up being a pitcher eventually. So that's the position that ultimately you ended up with. So from what I read, I know you got selected by the Rays.
Yeah.
Out of high school. You didn't go to college. You were out of high school. I mean, what was that feeling like, man? Because I feel like if you're a player that gets drafted out of high school, I feel like that's a big deal. That is a huge deal. Like not everybody can say that, right? It seems like if you get drafted out of high school, there's just something. There's something that a team saw, and do you know of any other teams that were paying attention to you? And clearly the Rays were. Were there other teams that were scouting you during that time?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of teams that were scouting me, and back then they would come to your house and do a visit. And I think I talked to over 20 teams, I think, overall, and they'd come to your house to meet you with the scouting people, and then you do kind of like some showcases here and there. I did a lot of showcases before my senior year, and got me seen a lot. But the Rays, I got to know the scouting guy here really well, and still talk to him here and there over the years. And he really liked me a lot, and I think they just felt like I was going to grow a lot. And I was only 17 when I got drafted and I signed. So I was a young senior. So I could have actually played one more year of high school ball and
Yeah.
maybe got drafted higher. But just leaving when I was 17, I feel like I was ready just to put in the work and play professional baseball.
Yeah, and again, that's got to be an awesome feeling, man. Because because only a small percentage of players, man, that make it to that level. Which was what did you do? I always like to know what players did that was different from other players. Like what made you feel like you stood out? Because there's always something that players do that's going to stand out to scouts, especially at a high school level. What do you think you did different than compared to like the rest of your teammates?
I think I started to throw a little harder. I would touch 92, but I think it was more like my frame and my build. Like I had big shoulders, and I was younger in high school than a lot of the other players, and I was only 175. So each year when the minor leagues, when I got up, every time I gained weight, by the time I was 20, I was like 220, 230, and every year my velocity went up 3-4 miles an hour. I think my first year hit like 94, and then the next year at 95, and then it went 98, and just kept
Yeah,
going up the more I put on weight and
it's
put in the
crazy.
work. But I think what I learned later in my career is that how my fastball moved and how good my vertical and carry was on it. And I hit the ball really well too. And I learned that later in my career. And that's why Tampa, when I went to the big leagues, they're like, just throw your fastball up in the zone. You don't need to throw anything else if that's working. So.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And you spent quite a few years in the minors. What was that experience like? I know you've played across like different teams in the minors. Was each one different? Was there any positives or negatives? If you want to go ahead and talk about that a little bit.
For me, when Tampa kind of set up for some of their young guys and their starting pitchers, they want them to throw like at least 500 innings in the minor leagues if they're starters. So that brought a lot of us, like me and Wade Davis. We went up through the levels a lot, and they wanted us to throw a lot of innings. So we went from, my first year was Princeton, West Virginia, then Hudson Valley, New York in the Penn League. I went to Battle Creek, Michigan, and Vero Beach, Florida. And then the most time I spent in the minor leagues was in Montgomery, the Montgomery Biscuits,
Yeah.
2007, 8, and 10. And that was a really cool stadium. And, very fortunate to play there a lot and be able to play in Durham too for a little bit with the big bull in left field.
Nice, nice. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, and I know you had some good success there in the minors. Baseball America, I was reading, and you tell me how you feel about this, and how you feel about rankings overall. But Baseball America said that you were the third best organizational prospect for Tampa Bay and 15th overall MLB prospect in 2008. And then I read that in '07 you were ranked fifth in the Rays organization and 37th overall in all of baseball. Do rankings mean anything to you, or is that how do you feel when you feel like when you're ranked that high, and what is that feeling like for you?
I think being ranked that high is cool, and it kind of shows the work that you put in, and means you're having success and doing well, whether it's getting outs or having good plate appearances and homers. And that year in 2008, I think that was the highest I was ranked. And I always remember I think it was pretty early in the season. Me and Kershaw ranked up, and we were both like top 5 prospects and like top 1 and 2 lefty prospects at that time. And I think I won that start. Both of us went like 6 innings, and he gave up a run, and I gave up no runs. And I was joking with him when I was playing with the Dodgers, and it's like, you remember that, like back in the day in 2008? And he did, and he's like, yeah, I remember that. And then he made the big leagues that year, and unfortunately I had to get Tommy John by the end of that year. So
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, Tommy John, I want to touch up on that real quick because it seems like with Tommy John, it used to be a rarity that pitchers, particularly right pitchers, used to get would get that surgery. But now I feel like Tommy John, it's like it seems all too common. What do you attribute that to? I mean, because you're a pitcher, you know what it's like. You've been through it. I feel like it's more common now than it was, even 10 years ago. Are they just having are like, is it for you? Is it just, do you think it's just analytics, just telling these guys they need to throw harder? There needs to be more of that spin rate on the ball. Is that what's attributing to a lot of these guys getting hurt?
I think that's some of it, and I think that it's just from now how all like where you're saying like the analytical wise, and then all the programs with like the weighted balls and the more intense throwing, the more lifting. I think all that puts so much more stress on your body. To where some of the kids I'm working with now, I'm showing them certain like pitching movements and
Yeah.
be more flexible and more mobile instead of just doing deadlifts and jumping on all those weighted ball programs, because I think a lot of the teams when they implemented that, a lot of guys started getting hurt when you're trying to throw a 2 pound ball compared to 5 point something ounces baseball. So
Right.
I think it's a attributed to that, and then I think everyone's just getting stronger and throwing harder, and everyone wants to try to keep up and get make it to the big leagues.
Yeah, because you see a lot of these guys throwing like 100-mile-per-hour pitches, and you're just like, how are these guys' arms still holding up? Because it's already this whole motion with your arm. It's already not normal. You know what I mean? It's not normal. So, those guys who throw 99, 100 miles per hour, it's great. It's cool for us fans to see it. Like, wow, this guy could throw wicked fast, right? But it's also a risk, right? Because you're putting more strain and stress on your body, and you're more prone to hurting yourself. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, because now and I've had former players on this show, and they, pitchers, right? And now it's getting down to like it's getting to the point of like high school level now. There's kids in high school that are getting hurt, and I'm like, that's concerning. That is concerning, because you're hurting the youth, and you're hurting their development, and it's going to cause problems for them later. I mean,
I think that I think the big thing is what I've been trying to tell the kids who I've been working with too is my biggest thing. What I'm thankful I learned when I was in Tampa my first year. Their biggest thing was arm care before you threw, and then most important is doing some kind of bands or weighted balls after you threw to try to get all that like lactic acid and get that movement out of your arms and help out with recovery a lot. So I've been telling a lot of the kids, I was like, yeah, you need to do these before you throw. Every time you throw off the mound, at least do these like 5 to 10 exercises is going to help a lot. And luckily, the only thing in my career was my elbow, and I never had one shoulder thing my whole career. And I would do those arm exercises every day throughout my whole career, and I feel like that helped me a lot. And I'd like to tell a lot of younger kids to do that too, because if you don't do your arm care in certain ways, your arm's going to break down. Especially if you keep throwing harder. So
yeah, I mean, recovery time is also important, and I feel like even with the recovery time, I mean, you're still prone to some sort of risk, in terms of throwing your arm out or getting, suffering from some sort of injury, right? But I mean, you do everything you possibly can. But if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Unfortunately, I mean, you can't really predict these things. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that there, Jake. But I appreciate that. You got called up to the major league level in 2010 by the Rays. First day pitching in the majors, making your major league debut. Were you nervous at all? What was that feeling like for you to get to be called to pitch? What was that experience like?
I was very nervous, and I couldn't even like feel my legs and arms. And they put me in. I think it was first and second, 2 outs against the Yankees in the day before. We drove to Tampa. The Rays walked it off, and I think took the lead in the division. And then Joba threw me in the next day, and I walked the first 2 hitters and walked in a run. And I still remember looking in the on deck circle before I walked that run, and I was like, oh, Derek Jeter's up next. So I faced him, bases loaded, 2 outs, and then I threw him a first pitch curveball and then 2 more fastballs and struck him out. And it's cool to say that was my first out and first strikeout in the big leagues.
Yeah, and against a guy like Derek Jeter, who was one of the best ball players to play the game, I mean, that had been a good feeling, and especially against a division rival like the Yankees, right? I mean, that AL East is always tough, and We'll talk a little bit about that too, about what it was like, because you spent a good amount of time with the Rays. So that
organization, first 5 years, I got a real good taste of the American League East, and then moving to the National League West was a little less intense than some of the going into New York and Boston, and even when the Orioles were good too, and the Blue Jays would get a lot of fans. So
yeah, I mean the AL East, it's I always say it. They're one of the toughest divisions out there, right? There's no argument there. And the Yankees are always going to be the topic. They're always going to be mentioned in conversations. The Rays, even now, like they're a very pesky team. That's what I know the Rays as being, is like they're such a pesky team. They don't give up. And I feel like the AL East, I mean, no matter how good a team is, the one of the teams in the AL East could be having a bad year, but they're still showing fight. Like that was the thing about that, and that's still a thing even now today, right? But whenever you were playing against division rivals, whether it was in Tampa or whether you were visiting the opposing team's stadium, like what was did you feel like intense? Did you feel your adrenaline rush at all playing against the division rivals? I mean, who do you think gave you the biggest? Which team or player gave you the biggest challenge in your opinion?
I think my first couple years in the big leagues, for me it was usually the Red Sox, and then some hitters with the Yankees I'd always have really good at bats against, and I think I faced David Ortiz almost every time we played against them. And then some days they would put Johnny Gomes would always come up because I was a lefty and he'd always pinch hit against me. And then the Yankees guys were like Curtis Granderson and Gardner too. And like I would face those guys all the time, and it was always intense. And I feel like when I was at Tampa, every year we were neck and neck, almost like making the playoffs pretty much almost every year. It was always intense, especially at the end of the year. It always got a little more intense in September, and we knew that was the last month and had to really push it.
Yeah, I mean, August, September comes around, especially September. That's when teams are starting to really play their hearts out, and that's when there's teams that you don't expect to make that push into the postseason, and they ride that. They ride that fire going into the postseason. So, it's always an interesting time, especially again with the AL East, because it's like 1 minute there's a team in first place, next thing you know, it's like now they're in second place. Now they dropped, and it's like a back and forth battle. What was there was somebody asking in the chat, what was your favorite pitch to throw? I know you mentioned the fastball, but was that?
It was definitely my fastball. So I think I have the most fastballs thrown in a row. I remember everyone was talking about it. It was like 250 something, most ever fastballs thrown in a row in the big leagues. And I think my highest percentage of one of the years was like 97% I threw just fastballs. And then towards the end of my career, I started to mix in a slider a little more. But my bread and butter was my high fastball, and I'll use it at 4 different locations, and kind of change speed and timing, and it helped me out a lot, even though the hitters knew I was going to throw a fastball pretty much every time.
Yeah, and I mean, if you got it, you got it, man. And some of those even when opposing players know that what's coming. Shoot, if you're able to get them out or make them swing and miss or make them look, and they don't swing at the pitch.
Yep.
I mean, hey, if it works in your favor, by all means, that's your bread and butter. So, you do what you got to do there. And you did. I read that you got the nickname Clock Hands. So for your unconventional windup, was that who gave you that nickname? Who was it in high school or?
No, I think someone just threw it out there, and I never really got called that much in the minor leagues. I kind of just heard it, and I was like, oh, like Clock Hands. Kind of makes sense of how my motion moves and stuff, and I would just try to keep my mechanics pretty simple and try to be nice and smooth. I wouldn't ever try to throw too hard. So,
gotcha. So, so you spent about 5 or 6 years with the Tampa Bay Rays. And then in the offseason, before the 2016 season, you and German Marquez were traded to the Rockies. So you are now playing for the NL West, which, in its own right, they're now, I mean, if we talk now, they're a good division. You spent a few years with the Rockies. What was it like playing in Colorado? Did you like playing in Colorado compared to Tampa? Like, talk about your experience in Colorado.
It was a good experience, but when I signed my free agent deal back there, I already kind of knew what I was getting into, which was nice. I played there 2 years before I signed my deal. The first year we did not do well at all. We had like 100 losses, and then luckily in the next 2 years we made the wild card round and the division round. But pitching in Colorado overall, that's what I tell a lot of people before they go there. Like, it's a lot different. The altitude.
Yeah.
You have to recover, drink a lot of water, and the biggest thing is the outfield's so big, and you have to move your eyesight a lot to where if you try to throw a curveball the same spot, start at the same spot if you're in San Francisco or New York, it's going to go 45 feet. So the ball moves a lot different there, and the four seams up don't carry as much, so you kind of have to adjust and change your game pitching wise. And Denver's an awesome city, and we enjoyed our time there, but it was not the easiest place to pitch, that's for sure.
No, it's especially being above sea level. The pitches are going to be a little different, so you have to, especially your breaking ball, like your pitches that break, right? They're not going to break as easy, right? Especially at that altitude, and it's going to make it easier for, obviously opposing teams to hit those pitches because the ball does travel differently in Colorado, and a lot of people don't. Excuse me, a lot of fans don't understand that either. If they've never watched the game in Colorado or seen what it's like, or even play in Colorado, it's the ball does travel differently. So you're more prone. You have a higher chance of hitting a home run out there.
Than anywhere else.
Yeah. And I do love Coors Field. That's an awesome stadium. That's a beautiful stadium. Denver's a pretty cool. Colorado is just a cool state all around. I'm sure you've probably gone to do some sightseeing and all that. So I know the NL West again. I remember 2018 though, that the Rockies had a good team, man. I mean, that was when DJ LeMahieu was on that team. Trevor Story, you had Charlie Blackmon. I don't know. Arenado was not on that team anymore, was he? Or
Nolan was still there.
Oh, he was still there, right? Yeah, he got traded.
I think that was our best team overall, and I think we had Daniel Murphy on the team, and Desmond, and where our lineup was really stacked, and we had some really good bullpen guys too. I think Wade Davis led the league in saves that year, and led the NL in that year, and we had a really good year that year.
Yeah, 2018 was an excellent year. That was one of the better rosters that the Rockies had. I mean, prior to 2018, it was 2007. They made it to the World Series that year. We all know what happened that year, but that was a really good roster. And in 2018, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this is exciting. This has to be exciting for the fans because I remember, the stadium being packed. Folks were going to games. It was quite a roster that you all had with all those guys that we just named. It's unfortunate that after that season, though, man, it just I feel like it's not to disrespect the Rockies ownership, but I feel like if they just invested a little bit more in the team and spent that money, man, I feel like the team could be a lot better. And I feel like they could have been contenders the year after, but I get it. I mean, every organization is a little different. So, but yeah, 2018 though, that was such a great squad that they had. So
it was a fun year. I remember we came down to we were tied with the Dodgers the last game of the season. Had to fly to LA, lost that game, lost the division, and then had to fly to, I think we flew to Chicago after that, or Cleveland, something like that, and had to play the wild card and then made it to division series. So
I believe it was against Milwaukee. I think it was either Milwaukee or Chicago.
I think Chicago was 18. I think.
Chicago was 18. Yeah, you're right.
Or Cleveland was 18. One of those. And I remember it was when it was still the single game, I think, wild card. And it wasn't.
Yeah, it was just a one game, knockout. Whoever wins, you move on. The other team loses, kind of like a football game, right? So you spent some time with the Rockies. I mean, I know, playing there. I know there was some struggles there, right, for a couple of years. I know you were on the disabled list for a little bit. I don't recall what that injury was. Was that something to do with the arm, or was it something else?
No, it was my knee. Over my career, I had a couple of knee issues. I had meniscus surgery when I was at Tampa, and then came back at the end of 15 and finished well. And then I had 2 MCL sprains in my push-off leg on my left knee.
Oof.
And then after my second one in 19, I missed quite a bit of time, like 8 weeks, I think, a couple months. And then I came back. I had a brace that year. And then after that, they let me go in between 19 and 20. And luckily, the Dodgers called, and I know Brandon Gomes and Friedman from Tampa. I actually played with Brandon Gomes in Tampa, and his locker was next to mine and stuff. Got to know him pretty well, and they said they're like, we see some stuff in the video. We can help your body move better and your hips and your knee, and come over here. They're like, if you get to LA before the season starts, you can be on the opening day roster. So I drove from Denver to LA and made it there in time. So
nice, yeah, and that actually lucked out for you because I know you got released by the Rockies. Mm-hmm. The Dodgers signed you. 2020. We all know what happened that year. That was quite an interesting year. You, as a player, you were on that team. It was a shortened season, right? Due to the pandemic. What was that feeling like, man, for you? Like, what was it, playing in a shortened season? The Dodgers ended up winning the World Series that year, but, let's talk about the 2020 season. Obviously, 2020 was just a whole different year for all of us. But you big time, right? And you as a player, man, you guys didn't get to play the 162 games. It was a shortened season. The stadiums were empty. There was like artificial crowd noise. I mean, cardboard cutouts in the freaking stands. It was such a weird. I mean, for me, when I was watching the games on TV, it was such a weird feeling of like not having, not having fans in the stadium, and it was just artificial noise. It was a shortened season. It was the whole thing for me was weird. Like, what was it like for you though, man? I mean, that year, talk about that.
It was definitely different, that's for sure. And that's what I was telling a couple people. Like, that year was almost harder than a regular season because you had to. We started later. We only had 60 games, and there's no one in the stands, so there wasn't really any adrenaline. And, the crowd noise is always different at different stadiums, but just trying to prepare in that way and have to take all the COVID tests all the time. And then when we made the playoffs, it was cool because all our families got to go with us in the bubble, but we were literally stuck at the hotel, and we only go to the stadium hotel, had to do like the spit test, COVID test every morning, and had to stick with it, and it made it a lot harder. But at the end, winning the World Series, and after dealing with that, I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, because unfortunately, you all couldn't really go anywhere or travel anywhere because everything was shut down. So, I mean, that had to been, I mean, for me personally, it's like it was driving me nuts just like being home all the time. Like, it was cool at first, like, okay, cool, like I get to chill out at home. But after
so long,
it just gets so old. Yeah. And I can only imagine with you traveling and, not really being able to go anywhere, having to go through all this testing. And I mean, I'm pretty sure it just, for you, it probably just got old really, really fast because you're just like, all right, can we just like get on with, back to normal, like get back to the games.
Yeah.
And, 2020, you were with the Dodgers. So, that season you went, you appeared in 24 games, 3-1 record, 2.66 ERA. pitched pretty well in the postseason.
Yeah, I think my one bad outing, I missed the pitch down the middle to Ozzy
Yeah.
Albies. And
Yeah,
other than that, I had a pretty good
you had a good season. Clearly, it was a good year for the Dodgers, right? In a shortened season, you all won the World Series, so that was a cool feeling. I mean, it was people like to some fans like to call it a COVID World Series because of the shortened season. Still winning that World Series, was it still a good feeling for you, even despite a shortened season? Like, what describe that moment?
Yeah, it was still a really good feeling, really cool. We got to celebrate on the field a little bit, but we didn't get any parade or nothing like that because of COVID. But
Right.
The World Series ring and just going through that whole season like that and ending out as the World Series champs is really cool. Putting in all that work and the sacrifices of not really being able to do much for that whole season. So,
yeah. So that was like I said, that was a different experience for all of us, right? I mean, and I don't know. It's cool to talk to someone like you who was on the World Series team for the Dodgers in a COVID year. I can't imagine what the dynamic and the adjustments that needed to be made for you guys as athletes, for the coaching staff. That there was definitely a lot of it was a different kind of year. It was a lot of changes that happened. And the game started to change itself. And I'll ask you some questions about the game here in a little bit because I always like to get thoughts on what players think about Major League Baseball today. Yeah. So after the Dodgers, you were done. You were done playing for the Dodgers, and then before the 2021 season, you signed a 2-year contract with a club option with the San Francisco Giants. So you went to another NL West team. This time you traveled up north.
Yep.
You had some. I mean, yeah, you had some struggles there. You had some good moments there too. I know you were named National League Reliever of the Month in July 2021. What was the experience like playing from LA? I mean, again, I know, granted it's 2020, but now you went up north to play for San Fran. What was that experience like for you playing for the Giants, and how different was it playing from the Dodgers?
It was really cool. I had the stadium at San Francisco is really cool, and I went there when I saw games there when I was a kid growing up in Sparks and Reno, and being able to play there. And when I signed there, they're like, you can be a closer and you take it and run with it. And I haven't really had an opportunity like that in the past. As a bullpen guy, I've got to close here and there. And they're like, all right, just you go and run with it and you'll be our closer for the year. And I ended up having like 31 saves and we won 107 games. So I feel like it was a really good choice and one of the best years of my career. And just the fan base there is awesome. And I got to play with Buster Posey his last year in the league too. It was really cool, and he's one of the smartest catchers in the league, one of the nicest guys. So,
yeah, you actually played with quite a few guys on that team. I mean, I'm looking at I had to revisit and look at the 2021 roster, and Buster Posey. I mean, yeah, excellent catcher. Someone in the chat, they're big Giants fans, San Francisco Giants fans. They were asking who your favorite teammates you like to play with when you were, with the team, because you spent a few years there. So I'm assuming Buster Posey is probably one of them.
Yeah. Buster Posey is a great guy and got to know him pretty well. And Brandon Crawford, I knew him over the years and played with him at the World Baseball Classic too. And then got to know Logan Webb quite a bit too. And, a lot of the guys and a lot of the bullpen guys too, we were getting pretty close with I was getting close with like Tyler Rogers too. It was always good to help some of the younger guys out in that way. So,
yeah. And would you, as far as the bullpen guys though, would you probably interact more with the lefties because you were a lefty yourself, and so you would probably they would probably try and share some of their tips with you as far as how to lefty to lefty, right? Talking to each other. I'm sure you guys were giving each other quite a bit of advice on how to approach opposing players, especially if they're lefty or righty, for that matter.
Yeah, I would help the lefties out a lot, but throughout my whole career, I always tried to help everyone out in the bullpen, especially the young guys, and kind of, if they had questions or help them out with things. And to things with their routine or how they approach things, and even from warming up in the bullpen when they go into the game. And I always try to help out every guy in the bullpen, and
Sure.
luckily had a lot of really good bullpens I was with, and very fortunate that way. But I think if you're in the big leagues in that way, you always want to help out your teammates, and there's no reason to hold any secrets back.
Of
So.
course. Yeah. No. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So you spent a few years with you made some appearances with the Giants. You played for them for a few years. I know you got released by them, and then the 2022 season you played for the Giants. They signed you to a 1-year contract. You only looks like on July 22nd. So of 2022.
I think they let me go like right before the All-Star break, and then I was stuck at 599 strikeouts, and I was like, well, at least I want to get one more strikeout for the year to get to 600.
Yeah.
And then the Brewers called, and they're like, all right, like, well, you just come to the big league team, and went there a couple of days later and pitched like 5 or 6 games with them. Had one bad game, they let me go, and then the next day I was like, I was thinking about just shutting it down for the season, but then the Nationals picked me up, so I was like, I got to fly to Washington D.C. tomorrow, and then I kind of realized like I don't want to really be bouncing around, and the next year I'll probably have to sign like a non-roster invitee in that way. But it was kind of full circle when the Nationals picked me up, because Davey Martinez, the manager, he was one of the coaches in Tampa, and then Jim Hickey was a pitching coach, and he was my first pitching coach in the big league. So it was kind of cool to end my career with those coaches too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you, like I said, you traveled well, man. I mean, you went from Tampa Bay to Colorado to LA to San Fran to Milwaukee to Washington. So it's like, you were just almost all over the country. I mean, the only part of the area you didn't go to is like the South, really. So you spent some time in the East, the Midwest, the West Coast. I guess you were in the South. I mean, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, with Tampa, yeah, but
I'm thinking
not like the Texas teams or none of the NL Central or nothing like that much. So, except for the Brewers, but
for the Brewers, yeah. So would you say that Tampa was probably your favorite place to play, since that was like that was the team that drafted you and you came up with them?
Mm-hmm, yeah, I think Tampa overall, just being in the minor leagues with them, and then being in the big leagues and growing in the big leagues with them, having being with them for 5 years to start my career in the big leagues, I was very fortunate. I didn't have to bounce around. Went through arbitration with them. Had a lot of good veteran guys earlier in my career, and and learned a lot about my fastball and pitch movements and things like that. They've always really good analytical wise. So.
No doubt. Favorite city when you were traveling?
I always like to go to Boston, and then let's see, Boston, Chicago. New York is always fun too. Especially if there's off days, there's always a lot to do, or go see one of the Broadway shows here and there. And all the food too. New York, Chicago, and Boston always have really good food. And in Boston, you could always walk from the stadium back to the hotel too. It was always cool. It was always nice to do that.
Yeah, and as far as food goes, do you have a go-to meal or is there a variety?
Kind of variety. There's such good like Italian food in New York was always really good, and we'd always end up at a lot of different steakhouses and things like that. Trying to think, there's a couple in New York we wanted to go. I think Peter Luger's is one of them.
Yep.
There's some really good steakhouses too. Over all the big cities have them. So.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. I mean, New York, you could find everything from all over the world. So, I mean, just step out of your hotel room, apartment, house. I mean, it's all right there. So, all within walking distance. It's great. Now you're retired from the game now. Do you still keep up with the games at all? Is there any teams that you grow? Yeah, I know you said you grew up a Giants fan, so I'm assuming you still watch the Giants.
Mm-hmm. They're on TV a lot here, but what I tell a lot of people is that I don't have a specific team I root for anymore, because I played for 6 different teams, but I root for the guys who the guys who I still know and who I played against, and root for them. I'll root for like Logan Webb pitching and like Kershaw and guys like that, to where I played with them and I know how hard they work, and it's cool to see that they're still doing it really well.
Yeah, Kershaw in particular, I he's a good pitcher. Unfortunately, I know injuries have really taken a toll on him. I feel like his. I mean, he still is a good pitcher. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like he could, his numbers, career wise, his stats and everything, his numbers could have been much better if he wasn't derailed by those injuries.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he works really hard. So that's why he's still playing too. So.
Yeah, and I had a question here from somebody in the chat. They were asking for you, and what is your favorite aspect of the game today, and how has it evolved since your career in the majors?
Let's see. I was talking on one of the shows the other day about like the ghost runner at second base. At first, I was kind of like against it. And then I think about some of our games when we played 16 to 18 innings and use every pitcher in the bullpen and have to put in position players just because you're 16 to 18th inning. I think that helped the game a little bit. And, since it doesn't go against the pitcher, and it adds another the strategic side of it for the pitcher to, you go in and you can't give up a single because then you're going to be losing by one run. Or if you're or if you're pitching against a home team and they one blue pit, then you lose the game. So it's kind of a good strategy on the pitcher side, and you have to be very careful.
So you are in favor of the ghost runner?
Yeah, I am now. Yeah, after when they first did it, a lot of pitchers were against it. Like it's gonna hurt your ERA, gonna hurt your wins and losses, the blown saves and things like that. But now with it's kind of speeding up the game a little bit instead of having to pitch everyone in your bullpen, and then if it's a night game, then it's 2 a.m, and then you got to have a 1 o'clock game the next day, and everyone pitch, and then it would cause more roster movement too. And I think overall it's good, and it's been exciting for the game too.
Yeah, because the ghost runner you were still playing, so that when it was implemented, like me personally, and I know a lot of fans. I just feel like the ghost runner is still like I guess I'm not the biggest fan of it really. I know a lot of folks are not the biggest fan. I know I've again had former players come up, and especially the older guys, right? Like the real old school players, they can't stand it. You know what I mean? They can't stand it. But you're one of the few guys that says, you know what, I'm all in favor of it now. After getting used to it. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling for me personally. The ghost runner. I mean, I understand trying to speed up the game, but it does. Yeah, I guess if the game was getting into like the 14th or 15th inning, it's like okay, I understand what the motive was. I get it. But I'm just, for me, I am happy they don't implement it in the postseason. I'm glad.
That's another big thing too. Is it's not in the postseason, which it should never be in the postseason because
absolutely,
that affects the game too much in that way.
Yeah, and your thoughts on the pitch clock, because I'm trying to figure out when that became a thing. I don't know. That must have been right.
I think they were implemented a year after my career. I think my last year they only had the in between pitch, the in between timing or in between innings. So I think that was the only thing. And then they were doing the pitch clock the next year, and that would have messed with me a good amount because I'd always look down, take breath, and then look back up, and I would have had to change my routine on the mound a little bit. I think my last year that was the first year they had the pitch comm and stuff too.
Yes.
But I think the pitch clock, I'm not a big fan of it. They could extend it by a couple more seconds. But it kind of gets the hitter to have to be in the box quicker because early in my career, hitters would take their time with restrapping their batting gloves, taking, extra 20, 30 seconds if they didn't like a call or if they fouled a bad pitch off, and, kind of speeds that way.
The thing because I used to enjoy was, you had that little bit of a delay without the pitch clock. The batters would make their adjustments. The pitcher would, was able to take a little bit more time. Then, there's that adrenaline between the pitcher and hitter. Fans were getting excited, right? Especially, during those years when Nomar was playing. He did his routine of, adjusting his gloves and then digging his feet into the dirt. And it was just like, once he's ready to go, he's ready to go. The pitcher's ready to go. I always loved that build up, that moment, and I feel like, the pitch clock has it's definitely taken that away. And again, I understand the aspect of trying to speed up the game, but I feel like the pitch clock, though, I feel like the game sometimes is I feel like it could be a little rushed. So
you can tell sometimes it's rushed, and then someone's not ready, and then then it causes conflict if someone's not ready, and then it's ball 1 or 2 or 3, and then I haven't seen too many where they've been strikeouts, but
yeah, I haven't seen it either. But yeah, that extra ball, it does hurt, for the pitcher, right? So the pitch clock. I mean, again, it's just another one of those things that I'm not too big of a fan of, but I dislike the Ghost Runner more than I do
than the pitch clock.
Yeah, than the pitch clock personally. But again,
I'm the opposite.
For sure. Yeah,
no pitcher would like to take their time, like
no,
absolutely.
Too. Yeah, absolutely. And I get it, man. I get it. And like I said, you're one of the few guys that appreciates that, or that likes the Ghost Runner. So I've talked to other players and they're like, "Oh my God, no!" Like,
no.
Can't it. So I totally get it, man. In terms of like today's game, though, do you think that there is too much analytics involved, and do you think it's just analytics is here to stay, right? It's not going anywhere. It's a big part of the game. Heck, it's even a big part of like during free agency. I remember I had the agent Andy Moda on the show, and he said that when they're negotiating with general managers and teams, they have their analytical guys in the room literally when they're discussing when they're negotiating a player. They got the analytical team looking up their stats, looking up all the analytical stuff, and trying to determine what a player is worth. So I mean, again, analytics is a big part of the game now, but in terms of in game, do you think there's too much of it, and do you think it messes with players' mindset?
I think it's staying around for sure, what you're saying, but I think it all depends on player. Each player is different in how they take it and how much they take it in, and it's organization. Everyone's different, and to where there's certain teams that are really good at relaying that analytical information, and some teams just give them way too much, and some of the players get overwhelmed with it. Like Tampa is always really good at giving information, and the Dodgers and Giants were always on top of it. And I think I always liked that stuff, so it never really bothered me. I never felt like I was getting too much information. I always wanted to kind of adapt with the game and get better each year from that.
Yeah, because I feel like with analytics, I mean, there's tools that you can use. I mean, you could that are useful, but I feel like there's other things that I think it's just still too much information overload, and I feel like it makes some players overthink on the mound or at the plate. It's cool that players have the iPads and they can see what it is that they're doing or what they need to improve. But I feel like the eye test is the real thing. You have to put eyes on the game to see what's going on, because at the end of the day, man, you got to put eyes on the game. You got to watch the game. You got to see, because that's where you're going to really see everything. I think the analytics it tells part of a story, but I don't think it's the whole story.
Yeah, it's definitely not the whole story. I agree with that for sure. I think there's a lot in the game, but you got to find the right way to break it down and put it into your game. So,
no doubt. So your thoughts on the ABS system? That it might be. I don't know if they're going to implement it next year. I know they're going to try and implement it next year. They used it during spring training. They used it for the All-Star game. your thoughts on the ABS system as a pitcher, because I know you as a pitcher, I'm sure you have been frustrated with umpires during your playing career when you felt like something was a strike and they were just like ball and you're just like, wait a second.
Yeah, I've thought about it a lot, and at first I was pretty against it because I would get some pretty favorable calls sometimes. But then when I was at my rehab assignment and when I was with the Giants, they were using it in AAA, and I didn't even know they were using it. And and then after they're like, oh, they're using the ABS, and I have no idea. And then later in the game, someone challenged it. I was like, oh, okay. Like it didn't seem like it was that big a difference to where I like that they do have the challenges where the pitcher, catcher, and stuff. I'm glad they had it in the All-Star game this year since MLB is going to implement it next year or the year after, no matter what it sounds like. So, I think overall it'll be good for the game overall. I think with the ABS. At first, I was like kind of skeptical, but then seeing how it worked, and then I'll go to some AAA games here with the Reno Aces and seeing how it works, and seems to be working pretty well. And I think I'm glad that they're taking their time with it, not just like rushing and be like, okay, here it is in the big leagues now, and now you guys got to figure it out. So I think they're approaching it the right way to put it in the big leagues. So
yeah, because I hate like as a fan, I don't like to see too much change in the game, and I don't like to have too much technology in the game. I like the old school, but But I think with the ABS system, I think it's necessary because every single umpire, their strike zone is going to be way different. There's so much inconsistency. I think you can agree with that there's so much inconsistency amongst the umpires, and
every team has a scouting report on the umpire, so they know give it to the starting pitcher and be like, oh, this umpire calls outside more than inside, and there's scouting reports on everything you can think of. So
yeah, this is
going to change now. After they do the EBS, it'll be a lot different. So.
Yeah, this is true. So, I know you guys, this is true. You guys do get the scouting reports, but even at that though, I feel like still umpires are still inconsistent, even with those reports. Would you agree with that? Do you feel like that, even then with the strike calls and the balls and everything, it's still inconsistent?
No, I think when you read the scouting reports, the scouting reports are pretty spot on, and
okay.
And then mostly it's mainly this guy's got a tighter zone on this side or that side, and he'll call more high than low, and it's usually really consistent because it's a lot of the umpires who've been umpiring for 20 years, so they have so many games on them and know how the pitches they call and don't call, and obviously Angel Hernandez when he was called the big strike zones for pitchers like to throw to that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, he's definitely a favorable umpire, and that is completely sarcasm right there. So, he's not liked by a lot of the players, a lot of the fans. It's just I know because I ask if there's still consistency even with the scouting reports because even when there's like a strike 3 called on a batter, they are just like, "Are you serious?" Like that. How is that a strike? Or if there was like a ball 4, and the batter takes a walk. The manager from the opposing, from that team is just yelling at the umpire like, "What do you mean it's a ball?"
Yeah, I think the ABS will clean that up a little bit, and and then being able to challenge here and there is it'll be clean up some of that. I think so.
I think they're only allowing 2 challenges, I think, per game. So it's not like you could challenge every single pitch, which is nice because then if you're challenging every single pitch, then it's just like, okay, it's just going to be more, it's just going to be more time consuming. So I do like that part of it. I do like because then it's like, okay, you need to be strategic with, okay, do we challenge this? Do we think that that was a ball? Because some of those pitches are real close and
really close.
Really, really close. So now you only have 2. You only have 2 choice. You get 2 challenges per game. So you got to pick wisely. So that's something I can appreciate. And real quick, man, I know I appreciate you taking the time out. How are you doing on time? I want to make sure you're doing all right. I just want
it's probably going pretty soon.
Okay, cool. There is one more question in the chat, and this was from our friend 161 River Ave. Would you say he's asking, of the 6 teams you played for, Jake, would you say there are differences in culture between them? And if there is, what was the difference between all? Because again, you spent a lot of time with these teams, Tampa, LA, the Dodgers, Giants. What would you say is the difference in cultures in between with those teams?
I think each one of those cultures is a little different, and it's more of like Tampa was always a really good culture, and it was a lot of guys who they brought up from the minor leagues to the big leagues, and Tampa from top to bottom, from the training staff to the clubhouse guys, they always hired really well, and Joe Madden always had a really good and laid back feel, and let the kind of players do what they wanted to do, and it helped comfort a lot of the younger guys. And same thing with Giants had a really young coaching staff when I was there, and they set up a really good culture mixed with the veteran guys and young guys. And I think if you have the balance of the veteran and young guys, it usually sets up a really, really good culture and balance in that way.
Okay, so Tampa. And what was the difference between Tampa to LA to San Fran?
So let's see, like Tampa and LA were really similar because they, Freeman took pretty much his philosophies from Tampa and brought it into LA. Same thing, same culture, and all those guys in LA from a lot of guys are still there. Like they had Kike and they were like core 6 or 7, and they created a really good culture there. And even when I was there, I just fit right in, and they made it really easy. And same thing with the Giants. They still had their veteran leadership there, and we believe we can win that division that year. When we did, and we had 107 games. And then the Brewers is pretty similar to Tampa too, the same kind of culture. I think the GM with Brewers was from there too, and their analytical side, and then bringing up all the young guys. And it helps a lot when the young guys are all playing with each other in the minor leagues, and they're playing with each other in the big leagues. Helps a lot.
Yeah, and one final question: your favorite manager that you played for? Was it Madden?
Yeah, it's definitely Joe Madden. Yeah, coming up with him, and super relaxed. He'd always bring fun things in the clubhouse all the time, and always make it super loose in that way. And especially if we're losing a couple games, he'd always bring something random. And I think he brought in like some animals from the zoo one time, and then and he set up like this perfume area, or like cologne area in the clubhouse, and be like, look good, feel good, smell good, play good. And he'd like say that, and people would just put on different cologne before they go out, and just little things to switch things up was always really cool. And we had a lot of like themed road trips too, and he'd always keep it really loose.
Family friendly environment, I take it.
Oh yeah, big time.
Families, yeah.
Yeah, so that was like the only team where like the wives and girlfriends were able to fly back on the team plane back to Tampa.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, no, that's a good feeling. So I mean, if they wanted to travel, then all right, cool. Before I let you go, man, anything else you wanna add, and anything else you want to share that we need to talk about, or the floor is yours, man.
No, I think it's good. Thanks for having me on. I got quite a few interviews this week, so.
Yeah, I can only imagine, man. But no, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, man, because it always means a lot to me when like former or current players take the time out of their day, because I know you guys are like busy, whether it's doing interviews or family stuff or coaching or whatever it is you got going on in your personal lives. I mean, it does mean a lot to guys like me, content creators like me that want to interview players. So, and also shout out to Nathan for setting this up. So shout out to him and his team for setting this up. But Jake, once again, thank you for coming on, man. Love to talk to you again in the future. Good luck in your future endeavors, and hope to see you again, man.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jake. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Awesome. All right. Well, that's wraps up the interview. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all who didn't get to watch it on the rerun. If you do watch it on the rerun, make sure you all hit the like button on that. It does really help out the channel. Hit that subscribe, share this channel out with everyone you know. I will be doing a pregame. So, and I will be doing a pregame. And I will be streaming the game tonight. So the play-by-play is already set up. I'll get the pregame set up too. I'll go live for that in about 45 minutes. So we will be doing a pregame. The lineup is out for the Yankees. So we'll talk about that. But I hope you all enjoyed the interview with Jake McGee. I like doing these player interviews, man. Every player is different. Their experience is different. They have different opinions on the game. The perception of the game is for each of these guys is going to be different. So, these guys all have their own mindset. Which is great to see. Hopefully we, get another player interview soon. I know Nathan and his team are always, working behind the scenes to try and make it happen for myself and other content creators. So, shout out to Jake McGee, man, for coming on. Shout out to Nathan for making it happen. Once again, him and his team always, working behind the scenes, trying to make things happen for us content creators. And, they're always working hard for setting up these meet and greets for fans, especially out in the Jersey area. So, but once again, folks, I do appreciate you all tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed the interview. I will get a pregame going. So look out for that. I'll be going live in about 45 minutes. So give me a little bit of time here, please. And we'll do what we always do during the pregame. So once again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you all hit that like button, hit that subscribe, share this channel out with everyone you know. I would greatly appreciate it. Let's continue growing this channel. And I will see you all soon. Have a good one. And I'll see you all in about 45.